All right, in today's exercise, we're going to learn how to make a live display. So as you can see, there's one at the top in the score display. You can see the 4 little dots, or actually it's 3 now. So if I get crashed, you'll see another one disappear. So we're going to look at how to connect that and where to put it and how to use it. So let's get started. To begin with, we want to talk about layers. Now down here at the bottom, you may have discovered there's a layer button, and it takes us to 3 different layers: the background layer, the game world, and the user interface. Right now I'm on the user interface, which I really haven't talked about this semester too much. And what this does is this is where things like GUI bars, GUI bars, and graphic user interface items like text and things go. And so I've made a separate thing to put here, which is let's just take a look at this, make sure I'm on the right layer. So this object here is a score display or lives display. So it's a lives display, and I made this in the sprite editor by putting on the first frame 4 ship symbol icon looking things, and I made an animation where each frame has 1 less of them. So it starts there and goes to there and moves to there and moves to there. So each one is a different part. It's going to stop and hold there. So to make this work, we're going to look at our behaviors, and we're going to open up behaviors, and we're going to set this up ready for action. So the first thing we're going to do is add a mailbox that's going to be called life, and the mailbox is going to receive something from the ship, which we haven't made the part for the ship yet. I want to start simple with this part. So we're going to use 2 numbers in here, 1, 2, and so they stack up like this. And the number we're going to use is 1, and this is life lost. So that's just a label on there. So this is going to go out to here, through the getter, and out to the plus. So the plus is going to set the number of this. And so we start off at the beginning with 1 life, or 1 frame. This is actually going to represent the frame we're using of that animation we just showed. So when this opens up where it starts, it's going to be set to the first frame. And then we're going to use the properties of the object. We're going to use an animation, and we're going to set this to go to. So it's going to go to whatever frame we feed it in. So whatever number we feed into the go to is the frame it's going to go to. Now if we change this to just to test this out, if we go to frame 3 and run it, nothing happens because it's not being fed the information. But we go there, and well, we don't have a collision yet, so we can't even test it. But let's see. So we're just going to keep this at 1. We're going to do. So put that at 1. Now we also need something to end the game if we reduce our lives too much. Now the funny thing is, we tend to think of counting down in terms of lives, but because we're counting frames, we're going to count above it. So we're going to use a logic and math piece called the filter, and the filter is going to decide if we're in a number greater than 4. So if we're on frame 5 or beyond. So we're going to go to this and say in. So if that is true, then we're going to go to game flow and restart game. So pass to there. So we'll test this in a minute, but the important thing is that we have all these things lined up like this, and it's not counting how many lives we have or don't have. It's counting what frame of the lives counter are we on. So if we then say OK, the important thing also is to remember that this should be on the user interface level. Well, let's go to the game world where we're going to find our player. And we have some things we're going to add to this. So once we've got the sprite open for the player, we're going to go to behaviors, of course. I've got a behavior bundle called battle stuff. I don't know if you've got that or not on yours, but I put things in here like shooting. So this is my shooting content. I also have some battle stuff in here I'm going to make for lives. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. And we first have to start with a couple of collision triggers. So I've got 2 collisions, because there's 2 kinds of things that might hit the ship. One of them is the enemy ship, and the other one is the enemy shot. Now, a funny thing happens when you get hit by one of these enemy shots or enemy ships, is it keeps hitting until something happens. So we only have this happen once for a couple of seconds. We're going to increase the repeat delay to about ½ a second, just to kind of make sure nothing happens while we're dying, and it doesn't increase our deaths more than once for the same hit. So now that that's set up, let's just test it. So see if that's getting hit. We should be able to see this. You can see it lighting up lightly, and it's working. Okay, so The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get a number to represent the depth. So we're going to take a -1. So it's reducing our lives by 1. And I'm just going to put a label on there for 1 down. So if we enter, let's move these over here a little bit. If we take those and we run those through the getter, and our next thing we need to do is work out what's going to happen if this occurs. And it's sort of a complex bit of work to do. And I've got sort of a picture laid out over here from my previous layout of it. And you can see it's a lot of spaghetti moving around. So I'm going to guide you through it one piece at a time rather than make you dissect it yourself. So I'm going to get a couple of numbers. Let's see. 2 more numbers. And these are going to represent, we're going to use alpha or transparency to make the object disappear. We're also going to send a message from components. We're going to use a message here. And we're going to say, okay, let's put that to there for the hello. And the hello we're going to send this to, it's not actually going to say hello, it's going to say life. So it's just a signal. And if we say to select type, and we're going to send this to the lives display. And again, that lives display is on the user interface layer. So we have 2 numbers here. One is the 100. And this is going to represent our alpha or transparency. Now transparency, if it's 0, we can't see it. If it's 100, we can see it. So the alpha is a value. And this is in properties. So properties, we have all these properties: position, rotation, alpha. Alpha is transparency. So we're going to feed that into there like this. And we're feeding it a 0 and a 100 because it's going to go at different times. So initially, when it gets hit, we're going to set this to, get this and have that disappear completely. So if I move this down, you'll see that when I get hit by something, my spaceship's going to disappear. Okay? So having done that, let's move this back up where we can see it. I guess there's other ways I could have done that. But anyways, so we want to have this timed for just a moment. So I'm going to add this to a timer. So timers are in components, I think. No, they're actually triggers. So there's the trigger. So my timer, this is just up here is my shot thing. So when that triggers, we're going to start the clock, and we're going to say, let's come back, say in 2 seconds. So it'll be 20. And we're not going to repeat it forever. We're going to repeat it once only. And once that timer is complete, we're going to go back to the 100. So the get here is going to then go to connect. There we go. So once that connects, it's going to feed through to the alpha and reset that back up again. Now we also want to have this respawn or reset back into a specific place in the game. And while it's dead or invisible, we don't want to make sure it's not hittable. So we're going to go find this enabled thing. So enabled just means, is it working? If we open this up and say, help, what does this do? There's a description. This allows the object physics to be turned off and on. So that means it's going to be invisible or unstrikeable or not solid for a few minutes, or for a few seconds. So once that hits, we're going to go from, from the 1 down here to the false, so it's not enabled. And when the timer is complete, it's going to re-enable it. So we have 2 things coming out of the timer. One is to the enabled and one is to the 100, which resets the alpha. Now the last thing that we need to do is reposition the object back to a reasonable starting position. So we're going to do that with numbers. 2 numbers. Oops, I made 2. There it is. Okay. They all pile up in the same default place. So what we're going to do here is when it respawns and it's ready to go again, when the timer's over, I think it is, trying to see what my original version did on this. Okay, so when we come out of the 100, we're going to go to this getter and this getter. So from the 100, this is when it resets the alpha back to 100. We're going to use that same node, and it looks kind of spaghetti-ish, so review the video as needed to see what's connected. And one number I'm going to set this to 160. Now 160 is sort of the middle of my screen on the X. So I did that by going, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 32. 5 times 30 is 150. 5 times 2 is 10. So 150 1 plus 10 is 160. And I'm going to feed that to the X position. So I'm going to get the number for this one. I kind of guessed at this at 256 for positioning the spaceship on the Y. So I'm going to go get the properties and to position blocks, and this is the Y, and this is the X. So now, when it runs, I have to get out of there to see this work. And so now when it gets reset, it reappears after 2 seconds. The only thing I have going on here is I don't shut off the enemy ships flying down. So when the enemy ships keep flying through, I gotta watch out because I might get hit by one of them when I respawn, like about to there. So if I respawn in the same place, that's kind of what's happening there. So I want to respawn this to sort of the main position there, and that should work pretty good. And that's how you set up death on your ships.